Good morning. Oh, good morning. It is a good morning. What a glorious, glorious early fall day we have with us. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Buffalo. It is so good to have you with us. Welcome. Welcome to all the newcomers here who are here for your very first time. It is wonderful to have you with us. Welcome to all the folks who have been here for a little while, checking us out, maybe back for a second or third visit. And welcome to all of you who have been here since forever, made it through the pandemic, at least online, came back, are here in person, and especially welcome to all of the folks who are out there visiting us and also being with us, stalwart folks online. Let's turn around and wave at them. Hello, everybody. Good to have you with us. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So good to be together in our sanctuary without walls. My name is Joan Montagnes, and I have the honor and the privilege of serving you, this congregation, as minister. I have a few announcements. Besides all those announcements that are in your order of service, I have yet more announcements, some of which are repeats, but they bear repeating. First of all, something that isn't in your printed order of service. Unfortunately, Leo Mitchell couldn't be with us today to sing our choral benediction, but fortunately, Phil Nicolai can be with us today to sing our choral benediction. So we have a choral benediction in four parts. So that's exciting. Also, next week, after the service on October 3rd, we will hold our annual fall congregational meeting. And one of the things we normally do in that fall meeting is approve the next year's operating budget so that we can raise funds for it. And that brings me to the fact that we will be having an information session about that operating budget so that you can have some input on what it looks like and how it works and whatnot before the meeting next week. And that information session will be at 9:30 in person in the parish hall on Sunday, next Sunday. So next Sunday, 9:30 in the parish hall. If you want to talk about the 2022 operating budget, that's a really great time to do it. If you would like a copy of the proposed budget, either hard copy or electronic, please get in touch with the church office and they will furnish you with one. You can pretty much do that anytime during the year. Just so you know, this is transparency. You want to know what our budget is? And you're a member of this congregation? Contact the church office and we will set you up. My last announcement is about the restorative practice listening circles. We know that when we listen to one another with open hearts, we may not agree, but we will understand each other more deeply and perhaps strengthen our relationship to one another. So the Board of Trustees and I invite you into a restorative listening process to unveil our experiences, thoughts, and feelings about Daniel Basson's departure from our staff. This will not be a time to assign blame or to talk about right or wrong or good or bad. It will be a time to listen to each other's experiences and for your experience to be heard and heard deeply. Trained facilitators will hold circles of 6 to 8 people in covenanted space for these conversations. And if you're interested in joining in the process of healing and restoration and transformation, please let me know by October 10th, and I will make sure that you can get into a circle. That is enough announcing, plenty of announcing, because we came here to worship, although all the announcements are how we unveil those bonds that bind each to all, how we enter into deeper and deeper relationship. Let's take a deep breath. Come, let us worship.
Our call to worship this morning.
Oh, I don't have it printed out.
Oh, you don't? Oh,
Tell me you do.
that's no problem. Sometimes technology is your friend. I have it printed out, but I left the printout at work, which is not really helpful. Our call to worship is Everything is Waiting for You by David White. Your great mistake is to act the drama as if you were alone, as if life were a progressive and cunning crime with no witness to the tiny, hidden transgressions. To feel abandoned is to deny the intimacy of your surroundings. Surely, even you at times have felt the grand array, the swelling presence, and the chorus crowding out your solo voice. You must note the way the soap dish enables you, or the window latch grants you freedom. Alertness is the hidden discipline of familiarity. The stairs are your mentor of things to come. The doors have always been there to frighten you and to invite you. And the tiny speaker in the phone is your dream ladder to divinity. Put down the weight of your aloneness and ease into the conversation. The kettle is singing even as it pours you a drink. The cooking pots have left their arrogant aloofness and seen the good in you at last. All the birds and creatures of the world are unutterably themselves. Everything is waiting for you. Come, let us worship. Please join with me and rise in body or spirit as we say the words in your order of service to light our chalice. We gather together in loving community, inspiring one another to transform ourselves to create a more just and compassionate world.
Now, somewhere in here, we're missing a story. Does anybody have the electronic copy of the order of service that I created? Okay, I'm going to give you an extra story, and I don't know how it fits into the service, but I'm going to put it in now. It's not in your order of service. I know it says story for all ages. You get 2 today. Yeah. So shall we do them just back to back and figure out what the heck? Sure. Okay. This is like worship ab lib. This is a hoot. Have you ever made, am I on? There we go. Have you ever made a mistake? I know I have. Oops, I made a mistake. I made a mistake and I worry. And the more I worry, the bigger the mistake gets. I worry so much my mistake gets huge, enormous, so much it weighs me down. My whale of a mistake. or my mistake becomes a whale of a mistake and it swallows me whole. People shake their heads and they say, "Whew, that's a big mistake. A whale of a mistake. Let me out. Leave me alone," I say. But my mistake doesn't listen. It surrounds me everywhere I am, and it's really awful here. It's really awful and stormy. Huge oceanic waves crash, thunder bashes, lightning smashes. It is awful inside this whale of a mistake. I don't know where it's going, but wherever it's going, I am going to have to go along for the journey. It begins to calm down a little bit. And when I'm feeling very, very brave, I find I can look up through the peephole, the blowhole of the whale, and look outside. It is nighttime. I crawl out and lie back on the broad back of my mistake, and the stars are all above me, and they are perfect. Or are they? They're falling. Some of them are falling. There is a whole universe of mistakes out there. And suddenly, my mistake and my whale, they don't seem so huge anymore. Maybe more like a dolphin of a mistake, or a baby beluga. And then, when I get even more brave and I want to move on, I find I can. I swim to shore, put my feet down on solid ground, and wave goodbye to my mistake. We will never forget each other, but I wave goodbye to my mistake, and my mistake waves back and dives deep, wave after wave after wave, into the deep blue sea.
Only Joan gets to dance while she tells the story. I have to be close to the microphone. So I want to tell you a whale of a tale. Once upon a time, there was a man named Jonah who sometimes heard a voice. The voice sounded like his heart thumping. It sounded like the air moving and like mountains resting on their great ancient haunches. And one day the voice said,
Jonah, go to the town of Nineveh and tell those people to behave themselves. They've been lying and cheating and carrying on, and it's high time they smarten up.
Jonah twiddled his beard and decided that maybe this time he could just ignore the voice. He had found that when he told people about the voice or what the voice had said, people laughed at him and told him to take out the trash. Jonah didn't like being laughed at, and he certainly didn't like taking out the trash. But Jonah began to hear the voice everywhere he went. The earth whispered, Nineveh. The water giggled, Nineveh. His stomach rumbled, Nineveh. No matter what Jonah did, the voice kept nagging at him. So Jonah decided to run away. Well, not exactly run away. He stowed away on a ship. The ship was headed for exactly the opposite direction from the town of Nineveh. And as soon as he got on board the ship, he found a cozy corner and fell fast asleep. But when he woke up, everything was topsy-turvy. Sailors were running from bow to stern, battening down the hatches, hoisting the mainsails. They were in the midst of a terrible storm. Waves crashed, thunder bashed, lightning smashed. Jonah crouched under in his corner and tried to stay out of the way. The sailors had never seen such a storm, so they knew somebody must be to blame. That was when they finally noticed Jonah in his corner. Jonah said, "Hi, guys." And the sailors said, "He's the one." Jonah said, "Some weather, huh?" The sailors picked him up, and without a by your leave, they threw him overboard. And as soon as he hit the water, the storm calmed. The sun shone. Jonah slipped gently down beneath the waves and was just about to glub, glub, glub his last when a huge fish swallowed him whole. Well, it was roomy, but very, very dark and dank and quite gooey inside the fish. Jonah panicked, and when that was over, he cried a little, and then he got mad, and then he took a moment to assess the success of his existence. It wasn't much. He left behind no belongings, no words to be remembered by, no children. He had only kissed one person. That was nice. And all of this introspection took a long, long time. Jonah thought to himself, the fish is my life now. On the third day inside the fish, Jonah stood up, dripping with half-digested herrings, and said to whoever was around to hear, which was no one, "I'm good at being inside a fish, better than most." Then he sat down and he cried, who am I kidding? I hate being in a fish. I would rather be anywhere doing anything other than being inside this fish. And at that exact moment, there was a tremendous rumbling that made his teeth shiver. Suddenly, there was a mighty, terribly smelly wind with the force of a tornado, and the wind picked up Jonah from where he was cowering in the seaweed and slime of the great fish and blew him up, up, up through the fish's mouth, through the air, over the waves, and down kerplop, right on dry land, right on the outskirts of the town of Nineveh. Jonah was a tad addled by the flight, but once he gathered himself together, blinking in the harsh daylight, he marched right down to the town square and told all the people about the voice and the ship and the storm and the big fish and the half-digested herring and the seaweed, and they were supposed to forswear their foolish ways and all that jazz. Jonah readied himself for laughter and to be told to take out the whole town's trash. But that's not what happened. The people listened to the story, his whole story, without saying a word until he was done. And then they told each other their stories, and they listened to each other. And they found that they no longer wanted to lie and cheat and carry on. And the voice whispered to Jonah,
Good job. Where shall we go next?
you see, I thought I was going to get away, but not really. Well, each week we give a fair amount of our plate to a worthy cause. And this month it is the Erie County Restorative Justice Coalition. Thank you, Joan. And the Restorative Justice Coalition is exactly what it sounds like. It's a place to affect restorative justice and yeah, anyway. If you are able to, you can go to our website and press on the donate button, and you can give your donation by PayPal. And if you are not online or do not choose to do that and choose to write out a check, you can write out a check to the UUCB, and in the memo line, you can put the words share, and part of the offering will go to the Erie County Restorative Justice Coalition. And if you want to just donate to the church, you can write pledge in the memo line. Either way, we don't care. And you can give your check, if you're here, to the lovely ushers who will be attending you shortly. And I thank you.
Whoops, I made a mistake. I was sure, I was certain, I was convinced, I was confident that this was the weekend that was sitting between the two high holidays in Judaism of Rosh Hashana and Yom Kippur. Guess what? I was wrong. I was off by an entire week, 7 whole days. And if you go in for that sort of thing, you know what can be done in 7 whole days. Oops, I made a mistake, and not just a tiny hidden transgression. Oh no, I published my mistake in the newsletter and on the website and in the e-blast for the whole world to see. My mistake naked and squirming out there in the universe. Well, thought I have lots of experience with this. I am good at making mistakes, better than most. I said this to myself, though, even though inside, of course, inside, I was deeply wishing I hadn't failed, stumbled, missed the mark, and flunked on basic calendar reading. Oh, who am I kidding? I hate making mistakes. I hate making mistakes. I'd rather be doing anything, anywhere, rather than messing up in front of all of you. Oops, I made a mistake. And all the people of the world are shaking their heads and saying, what a big mistake. A whale of a mistake. So every year about this time, Jews gather to tell the story of Jonah and the whale. They tell the story as they begin to re-covenant with themselves and with each other and the divine, and as they begin a new year in love with a clean slate. This is the purpose of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and the 10 days that lie between them. Now, make no mistake, this business of starting the year with a clean slate does not come easily. It's not done lightly. The 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are called the days of awe because they are reserved for deep introspection, atonement, a time to assess the success of your existence. Some Jews observe Yom Kippur wearing the shroud in which they will be buried, to remind themselves of their fallibility and their mortality. This is the only time we have to live our lives well with friends, family, neighbor, and all that is holy. We must not take our days or our relationships lightly. Now, in my family, given that most of us are not practicing Jews anymore, but rather what we affectionately call Jew-ish, we take these days of atonement a little more lightly than perhaps we could. There is indeed a flurry of phone calls amongst long-lost cousins and such saying, "Hi, how are you doing? How are the kids? Some weather, huh?" But perhaps, in spite of the lack of formality, ritual, and burial shrouds, we all know what's going on. We are reestablishing precious ties over time and space, unveiling the bonds of relationship and love, taking nothing for granted. The greatest mistake one can make in this very complicated and fraught life is to be unable to forgive and really deeply seek atonement with yourself. Without self-forgiveness, how can we forgive anyone else? If you can't forgive yourself, if you can't do that deep work, and really that's the hard one, right, is forgiving yourself. If you can't learn to go through that journey of forgiving yourself, how can you be in covenant with your community and with the divine? The greatest mistake one can make is to act the drama of your life as if you were alone, as if life were a progressive and cunning crime with no witness to the tiny transgressions or leviathan wrongdoings. To feel abandoned, alone in the belly of a whale of a mistake, is to deny the intimacy of your surroundings. Surely you at times have felt the grand array, the swelling presence, and the chorus of crowding out your solo voice. Jonah made a whale of a mistake by ignoring the holy voice that spoke from within him and throughout the earth. He made a whale of a mistake which swallowed him whole. We tell the story of Jonah because even though Jonah violated a sacred relationship, he eventually, after 3 days and 3 nights in the stinky belly of a whale, eventually he forgave himself and each other, the others. He atoned. And then a community atoned. And then everyone could begin again in love. The voice, the holy, the divine, whatever you want to call it, conscience, if you will, the transformative power of love. The voice held not only Jonah, but also the community of Nineveh accountable to their highest ideals. The story of Jonah is a whole package. We forgive ourselves and each other and begin again in love.
Can you hear me? Before I sing today, I just want to tell you briefly what I'm singing about, since it's in Italian. This is a piece that happens in an opera between 2 people who are engaged to be married. And right before the piece starts, the husband-to-be calls his wife to be cruel because she wants to postpone their marriage because she's grieving the loss of her father. So at first she's kind of taken aback by this accusation, but then when we get into the main body of the piece, she sings really sweetly to him and says, "Please don't call me cruel, you know how much I love you, You know how faithful I am to you. And it really hurts me to hear that you don't remember that. And so in the very last portion of the piece, the fast section, she says, perhaps one day again, heaven will smile upon us and we can be happy as we once were.
mistake that we can make is to act the drama of this very complicated and fraught life as if you were alone. As if your mistakes and successes, creations and refusals didn't matter to anyone else, anyone but you. Or as if you failed or thrived all by yourself, without help from anyone else, on your own steam. The greatest mistake you can make is to live as if you live in some sort of sterile isolation. You are not alone. You've heard me say it before, and I'm going to say it again sometime. You are not alone. You know, there are some folks out there in the great family of all things, there are some folks out there who will enable you, assisting you as you fall into error, and supporting you as you achieve your greatest endeavors. Some folks out there are going to build a space so generous and open that you can laugh together for hours. Others are going to grant you the freedom you need to learn on the journey. We all have mentors in our lives, known and unknown, named and unnamed, monsters and quiet listening ears of compassion. All these relations and more make up your community of brokenness and healing and transformation. All our relations, companions from sunrise to sunset, from birth to death, all our relations, companions, all require forgiveness of one sort or another from you, so you can be whole. Now, this is when I have to stop and do my annual definition of forgiveness so that I'm not understood too quickly, or misunderstood, as the case may be. Forgiveness has nothing to do with forgive and forget. There is no such thing as forgive and forget. You can't forget a hurt worthy of the sacred journey of forgiveness. And forgiveness is also nothing you owe anyone, right? You do not owe forgiveness to anyone. Forgiveness is choosing to live life on your terms and not the terms that someone else's actions have had upon you. You get that? Forgiveness is choosing to live on your terms and not the terms that someone else's actions have had upon you. Forgiveness is a process that begins the moment that you are brave enough to acknowledge that you have been hurt. And then slowly, when you are brave enough to move on, you find you can move on. Forgiveness is that process of having the hurt right here, and I do this thing every year for you, moving it. When you have a hurt in your life, it is there, and you cannot move forward. Forgiveness is whatever it takes to move it here. It's always here, but you can move forward. The hurt no longer stops you. You can swim to solid ground, never forgetting, just letting go. And the hurt fades, wave after wave after wave, into the deep blue sea. Put down the weight of your aloneness, and ease into the conversation. Invite the precious ones, and they are all precious. Invite the precious ones to release their arrogant aloofness, to join in the circle and see the good in each other at last. We forgive ourselves, and in so doing, we forgive each other. All the birds of the world are unutterably themselves. Everything is waiting for you. Let's join in singing "We Begin Again in Love," as printed in your order of service.
For remaining silent when a single voice would have made a difference. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For each time that our fears have made us rigid and inaccessible. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For each time we have struck out in anger without just cause. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For each time that our greed has blinded us to the needs of others. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For the selfishness that set us apart and alone. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For falling short of the admonitions of the Spirit. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For losing sight of our unity. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin for those and for so many acts, both evident and subtle, which have fueled the illusion of separateness. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
Let's join our hearts and minds in a quiet moment of prayer, reflection, and meditation. We feel the season turning, the early sunset glancing through drying leaves, morning arriving on cool air. Schools of migrating blackbirds painting great strokes on steely skies. a feeling of ending and of being on the edge of something new. This is a threshold season, a time to welcome a new year and a time to make the old year right before we lay it on the shelf of memory. We dip harvest apples in honey to savor sweetness and to carry us across these changing days which hold all the possibilities imaginable for ourselves and for generations yet to come. Today, we especially hold in our hearts Carol Condon, who continues in her difficult recovery. We send Carol and all her family thoughts and prayers of strength. We also hold Hope Kraus in our hearts as she heals from a fall on her shoulder. And now let us welcome into our sanctuary of compassion, memory, accountability, and hope. Let us welcome the names of all our loved ones, suffering in sorrow and celebrating in joy. Each name a breath, each breath a prayer. The breath of nature is upon us. The spirit of life is within us. The community of love is among us. So be it. Blessed be. And let the church say, Amen. Let's join in singing Shalom Haverim.
We will do this a couple times together, and then we will split off into our rounds. So Helen will lead a group over there, and I suppose I was supposed to be second, so we should switch. Then I'll lead in the middle. And then those guys will lead over there. Ooh, different tones of microphone. Interesting. Okay, let's give it a go. And then we'll do the round 3 times.
Shalom Haverim, Shalom Haverim, Shalom, Shalom. Lehitraot, Lehitraot, Shalom, Shalom. Shalom Haverim, Shalom Haverim, Shalom, Shalom. Lehitraot, Lehitraot, Shalom, Shalom.
Shalom Haverim,
Shalom Haverim, Shalom Haverim, Shalom, Shalom. Lehitraot, Lehitraot, Shalom, Shalom. Shalom Haverim, Shalom Haverim, Shalom, Shalom. Lehitraot, Lehitraot, Shalom, Shalom. Shalom Haverim, Shalom Haverim, Shalom, Shalom. Lehitraot, Lehitraot, Shalom, Shalom.
Join with me with the words in your order of service as we extinguish the chalice. As we extinguish the flame of this chalice, may we carry its light with us into the world in the power of peace, faith, justice, and love.
He who brings peace to his universe will bring peace to us and to all the people Israel. And let us say, Amen. Say shalom bimromav, say shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol Yisrael.
May we love so boldly that we choose the difficult path. May we forgive ourselves and each other when we stumble along the way, and may we have the courage to help one another to continue on the journey. Let us have hearts open enough to embrace humility, grace, and reconciliation. And may we learn to grow, to let the spirit of love and truth work its transformation upon us and within us. Remember, you are blessed. Remember, you are a blessing. And above all else, remember, you are not alone. You are never alone. So be it. Blessed be. And let the church say, Amen.